Okay, so what's up, everybody? It's Kyle with another episode of Hillsborough and Hunterdon. Today, I got my longtime friend, very good friend, Drew Handwerk. Drew, thanks for being with me today, my buddy.
What's up, everybody?
So I'll give a little background on Drew, and then I'll kind of let him tell his story. I've known Drew since high school, a couple years older than me as far as when he graduated. Used to train at the same gym. And Drew was always really, he got into fitness, just kept following it, asking questions, he kept going. And so, Drew, why don't you kind of just tell us where you're living now, how you wound up down there, what were you doing prior to that?
All right, I'm currently living in New Orleans, and which is pretty interesting for a guy who thought he'd never leave Central Jersey. Let's see what the time frame is. Probably about 8.5 years ago. I started a long distance relationship with my now wife, Shannon Mitch, and I had to prove to her that this is something I really wanted. And for about, I want to say 8 or 9 months, I came down here once a month to visit her until she finally said, you know what, I believe you. Let's make this work. And I moved down here June of 2013. And so we're coming up on the 8th year of being here. And yeah. I don't think I made the wrong decision by any means. So cool. Happy to be here in New Orleans.
So I didn't realize it's been that long, but I guess when I look at it, so Drew, you know, was a client when I was teaching people, and then he started working at Newell as a coach. And I remember when he told me about, hey, I'm probably going to be moving, and it was tough to lose you because you understood, you had the same philosophy of training and just how to grow as a person. But at the time, so you got, I believe was Newell Strength your first fitness job?
Yeah.
It was, okay. So you were doing that because you wanted to get in the field, but what was your career all the way up until that point? And even when you moved down there first?
I was bartending at Rafferty's and running the front of the house or the bar portion of the bar or of the restaurant, and it was a great job, but it was also too much of a safety net, which kind of held me back from jumping and making the leap and working full time for you or just getting to the fitness profession full time. So in a way, coming down here was like one of the best things that could happen for me and in the fitness profession, because I was ripped away from my safety net. But when I moved down here, I didn't have any contacts yet in this world. So you do what you can to survive. And I found myself bartending on Bourbon Street, which if you never want to bartend again, go bartend on Bourbon Street and it will change your life.
Yeah. Why is that? It was just crazy, just hectic?
It was just, I don't have the personality for it. I think you have to be part an actor to have like a fake enthusiasm every day, to have the same conversation with tourists every day. And, every day like, oh my God, so what you're saying is I could take this drink and go out on the street and no one's going to stop me. I'm like, yeah, you go outside with your drink every day. Just kind of, it was like Groundhog Day. It was like hit the button and repeat. When I was up in New Jersey and I was bartending, I had regulars, and you develop rapport over time, and it's like they become an extension of your own family. So conversations and relationships grow, where there is just like every day, repeat. And that got me off bartending pretty fast. So, and then it was actually pretty interesting because it all comes back to Newell Strength. Even down here, I had contacted Gabe because Gabe had moved out to, I think, Arizona at the time, just checking in with him to see how he was doing and his travels and adventures. And he just happened to mention a guy that he met at a speaking event held by the Ultimate Warrior in New Jersey. And this guy happened to have, a boot camp business down here. So out of the blue, I reached out to him. He's like, how do you know me? I was like, listen, a friend of mine met you at an Ultimate Warrior speaking event. And, so I started working for him. So I was doing a boot camp up at one of the parks up here, and then as that grew, and then that was my first foothold in, and then somebody that I knew at a gym I was working out in opened up a TRX studio, which I had been certified in TRX already. So I started working there. So I just started taking whatever jobs I could and started shifting more and more over to the fitness world and less from bartending. And then I started setting myself up in 2 different gyms where I could sublet, where I could use the space of the gym and pay a rent. And then so I was kind of doing that shuffle where I was starting off at 5:30 in the morning up at a boot camp uptown, and then I'd shoot over to the TRX studio, and then I'd have some clients at a gym over in part of town called Mid City, and then I started training uptown. So I was kind of doing the shuffle where I was probably driving throughout the day just as much as I was training. And then I started to collect more of a following with clients just through word of mouth. And I was able to finally have enough pool where I can kind of put myself into one location. So I was training at this gym uptown called Temple Gym. And up until gyms got closed down, I believe it was last March now, I was training out of there. And then kind of, again, went back into survival mode and did what you could do to survive. So I started going to people's houses, front yards, different parks by their houses. I went, kind of like what's old is new again, right? So I just traveled around with a couple kettlebells, whatever I had in my possession at the time, and a couple bands, and made it happen. And kind of there's a throwback to your humble beginnings, where you do what you can. You don't need much. It's easy. It's like you'll lose track of that. How easy it is to get a full workout in and put together something with minimal equipment.
Yeah.
So, and then I have a shed, which is now what I'm in right now. But this, in the beginning of all the pandemic, this was just a shed. I had, my paddle boards on the wall over there. There actually wasn't this wall over here. You can see that wall was built.
Yeah.
So I reached out to a buddy of mine just to get a quote to see what we can do about it, because we're doing good with the weather. We actually had one of the best springs I remember down here. It felt like we were living in San Diego. And then as time went on, we live in New Orleans. It doesn't take long for that heat to start creeping up. So my buddy John, who's a contractor, another Jersey guy, always comes back to Jersey. He wants something done, hire a guy from Jersey. So he contacted me on a Sunday. He's like, I just had a cancellation. He's like, I can start construction tomorrow. And I was like, yeah, let's do this. So now we took my whole shed, built a wall, got an air conditioner and heater in here. And this is where I've been running Start the Day Fitness ever since. So I'm just kind of waiting here, keeping an eye on real estate and what's going on around the city, and gonna make my next move based on what happens in the next couple months. But in the meantime, got a nice little gym in my backyard.
Nice. How many square feet is the gym?
Let's see, probably about 270 to 280.
Okay.
And then like directly behind where this is facing, I have barn doors that open out. So like today is going to be probably about 65, 70 degrees. So it's open air.
Nice.
So as soon as the weather gets nice, it's just open air. So if we're doing any kind of farmers carries or any kind of things that require a little more distance, I'll pop those doors open. So yeah, again, back to 280 square feet.
Beautiful.
Minimal equipment, and because I had to work with minimal equipment, I couldn't get like everybody and their mother was ordering all the equipment offline or online all throughout the beginning of all this, because everybody wanted to work out. No gyms were open, so some of the things took forever to come in. Like this rack, I think I waited 12 weeks for that rack to come in. Yeah, in fact, I have my weighted vest. We were talking about weighted vest workouts. Yeah, I ordered it 2 months ago. It's coming in today.
No kidding.
Yeah. So everything's been on. I keep getting emails from all the different vendors of things I've inquired about, whether they're available or not. So.
Wow.
Yeah. So But in the meantime, I'm just building up and instead of spending rent every month like I was doing, now every month I just reinvest into more equipment. So when the time comes and I find the right real estate spot that I'm looking for, I mean, the gym's already built.
Already built, man. It's a beautiful setup, man. The simplicity is beautiful. There's something very, very nice about that. And so I want to go back to when you moved down there, right? You didn't have any connections. You knew you wanted to get into the fitness business, but yet, as happens with us as human beings, you went back into the old pattern. Okay, I'm going to do what I know, bartend. But you continued to stay focused on the fitness path. So what was going on up here? Was there fear? Was it just a constant focus on, hey, we're going to do this? Like, what was the mentality?
It was definitely a constant. Yeah, it was a focus on this is what I was going to do, because I was stretching myself pretty thin, but to make that work, I was getting up at one time. I was getting up at 4:30 in the morning, to get some clients in, and then I still go to work on Bourbon Street from 9 to 5. Because I was working mostly the lunch shifts over on Bourbon Street, but it was just like that note. Yeah, it would have been easy to. Just the money was great over on Bourbon Street, but it would have been easy just to collapse and sleep in a little bit more. But I knew that was not where I wanted to be, and I knew, like, instead of looking, I think you introduced me to this idea of what's right with this problem instead of what's wrong with this problem. And what was right about it is the world was my oyster. I had everything. Like, this is all new. I didn't have I didn't have a safety net, and I think sometimes, like, you have to pretend like you don't have a safety net and really, take that leap and invest in yourself and go full on in.
Yeah, right on, man. And you did. I mean, it's been really cool for me to watch your path, your journey, just the persistence and perseverance, and it's been really neat, man. So when those times would come up, you were trying to build the business, start today. Let's say, again, I want people to really focus on the fact that you went down there relatively. You didn't step into an existing business. You began this thing as a thought. But when the fear would creep up about, man, how am I going to do this? How am I going to continue this schedule? How am I going to find clients? How did you overcome that?
Yeah, I kind of lost you on that the last couple of seconds there with the audio. I'm sorry.
Oh, no, I was saying, like, when that fear would creep up, like how are you going to figure this out? How did you deal with the fear? Was it just constant action? Was there something that you did, workouts? Like, how did you overcome the fear?
I just knew, like, I just knew I had to keep saying yes to everything, whether it was ideal or not. I just had to, I had to lay down my track. I had to, pick up momentum. I had to I had to do it. It's survival. I think I came down here with an open mind of, this life is different now, and I need to. I've never completely failed before, so why am I going to fail now?
Yeah.
So, and I just applied that same principle. I'm going to make this work no matter what.
Yeah. And you had, from years of bartending, you had that. You knew it. I mean, that's a grind. That's a profession. You had that, and I think you just applied it, the same mentality. I'm gonna hustle, do what I gotta do. That's everything.
The show must go on, right?
Yeah.
There's no laying off, and I think that's also the thing too. It's just no matter what, there was no, I've never had any kind of position where you get paid vacation, or you have any kind of thing to fall back on, or any kind of area to get lazy on. It's just everything I've ever done, in order for it to work, you had to keep pushing forward.
Yeah.
That's there's no cruise control. And, you know, I think that's one of the parallels between both professions that I've held. There's no, you know, take your foot off the gas and just relax. Like, it's like, it's a really fast way to create career suicide.
Oh yeah.
You know, I think there's a lot of, I think there's a lot of professions where you can kind of go in and out of those moments and periods of time where, like, I don't think, you know, the restaurant industry nor the fitness industry is one of those places where you can just take it easy, because you got a lot of eyes and a lot of people depending on you to do the right thing and keep pushing forward.
Yeah. And you know, like you said, there's times when you can essentially back off, but as soon as we get comfortable, that's the beginning of the end.
Yeah.
You got to catch yourself. You're like, oh, I'm going down this path, and I should not be this comfortable.
Yeah.
And,
I think December that started to happen for me with the holidays and kind of like taking a deep breath and just reflecting back on all the phases of things I had to go through last year through the pandemic, and then it was actually just this week where I just came up for air and I was, wait a second, I gotta get working again. Where I had gave myself a month, and then I kind of felt like it was time to pick it back up and get back on more reading and, you know, pushing forward. You know, right now, you know, for the business standpoint, the business is kind of that part's taking care of itself, because it's all word of mouth now. People contact me out of the blue, and, you know, if hopefully I have room for them, but it usually has to come from a really good reference for me to take on a new client right now, which is a great thing to be able to say.
Yeah.
So the business side of things is kind of taking care of itself, but then what my knowledge and my continuing of learning and that needs to pick back up. So
yeah. And it's okay. I mean, we look, right, like it's okay when you're aware of it. And we do need downtime. We do need that built-in periods where things are slow to restart, and you know you can't sit there. You know, and that's exactly what you are aware of that. So let me ask you this: if you picture yourself 5 years from now, what are you doing? What is Start Today Fitness like? What do you picture in your head?
I think, oddly enough, I think Start Today Fitness is inside of this gym right now, and that just kind of came out. Like, I'm not particularly here in this location, but I think what transpired this year has kind of shaped my vision of what I think Start Today will become. So I think I would like to have, you know, start with one location somewhere uptown, because that was where I was primarily working. So a lot of my clients are close to uptown. And right now, I'm not sure if anybody who's listening is familiar with New Orleans. We live in a neighborhood called Algiers Point, which is actually on the opposite side of the Mississippi River, which just goes to show you how great my clients have been to me. Like, every day where I used to be right in their neighborhood, they come out all the way across the bridge. They travel across the Mississippi River, you know, to and from, to just come out here and train. So I'm really fortunate to have such, you know, devoted clients. And so I'd like to get back to uptown. So something maybe twice the square footage of what we're looking at, you know, somewhere in probably about maybe somewhere around 1,000 square foot actually. Start with one location. And the way the city is, it's compartmentalized where people don't cross over, even if it's geographically close. There's certain boundaries where people don't necessarily cross over or feel, I don't want to say safe, because it's not a matter of safety, it's just people just have their areas of the city. So although it's not that big of a city, it wouldn't be unfeasible to think that I'd have 3 or 4 locations just in the city of that size, and then build out that way.
Very cool, man. Very cool. Talk about when I ask you what's your favorite book, what comes to mind first?
What's my favorite book? Man, That is a tough one. What's funny is it's a book that I remember you lent me, and I cannot find it anymore. And it was because it was like literally, I think it was like a Xerox publication. It was Scott Abel.
Oh yeah.
And I think that was the first time where I saw where you, who the fitness guru, like, where I started to see where your roots were laid down. And I think that was, it kind of changed everything, like the idea of more like functional training, doing things in circuits and complexes, and it kind of broke down my, like, chest on Monday sort of thing, where it kind of set me in a different path. And I think that's probably one of them. And I constantly do searches for that publication, and it just does not exist. So don't lose that.
Yeah, Scott's an interesting guy, man. He impacted me a lot. Did you ever read his? It's Your Truth is Calling. I know he's got it on PDF ebook on his site now. That is excellent.
No,
Nothing to do with training, but it's probably the best self-awareness, self-improvement book, one of them I've ever read.
Your Truth is Calling?
Yeah, if you go on his Scott Abel site, that book is awesome. You'll like it. How about this one, Drew? And then we'll kind of tell people where they can find you. If you were to go back to your 20-year-old self, what advice would you give yourself knowing what you know now?
Take more chances.
Take more chances.
Yeah. I think I used to have and it took me a while to get to this point to understand this. At 20, even now at 42, at 20, you're an infant. I think especially 20, you're definitely an infant. I talk to people about this all the time, where you're like, there's a big chunk of your life where you're not really responsible for most of the decisions you're making, right? Even 18, you're an adult, but there's still a lot of things that are being taken care of. So even at 18, you somehow have full autonomy. At 20, you're 2 years old. Say if you live to 85, so you're only 2, you have, 65 more years to live at 20. 2 is nothing. Screw up.
Yeah.
Obviously, within reason, but take chances. There's no reason to to plant yourself in concrete at 20.
Yeah.
And I feel like, I think it's also hard too. I think like parents in our generation lay down a different sort of track and the world was different, where I think you looked at, like my dad, I think the entire time, like I've been alive, he worked for 2 different companies, and even the big jump that he made to another company later on was a big deal. So I think we have that reference in our mind of, what you know growing up, but the world is changing. And I think you just need to know that, like, all right, well, try something. It didn't work. Take something from it, right?
Yeah.
Not everything's a loss. There's something you take from everything. Like, I bartended for probably way too long, but at least the ability to communicate with people and the ability to persevere and push through and never stop the feet from moving. That all applies to what I'm doing right now. But definitely, I wish I would have taken more risks earlier in life.
More risks. That's great advice, man. That's great advice. Coming from somebody too that has taken a lot of risk, yourself. Moving down there and starting this, and but
yeah,
that's excellent advice. So, Drew, tell people, because we'll share this out and all that. People down there in New Orleans, I have this on your page. So where can they find out more about you?
Say that last part. It just broke up again. I'm sorry.
Yeah, no problem. What's the best way for people to find you or get in touch with you? Can you hear me, Drew?
Either Facebook or did you hear that?
No, just repeat that. Repeat that.
Okay. Start Today Fitness on either Facebook or Instagram.
Okay.
And also I have a website, starttodayfitnessnola.com.
Okay. Cool, man. So I'll make sure I put all that in the show notes. And you know, I know you got a full roster right now, but I'm sure people are still going to be looking, you know, to seek out your services. So this was good, man. Your story is inspiring, Drew. I'm proud of you, and it inspires me, man, to see what you've done. So keep that up, man.
That means a lot coming from you. Like I'm always like, there's always like a voice in the back of my head that's like, you know, what would Kyle do in this situation? You know, like, and I feel like it's been a driving force.
That's
you know,
cool.
like it always feels like, you know, knowing what you put into this industry and what you've done just makes me want to work, you know, hard and carry on the Newell legacy from my humble beginnings of working there at your first little location with you and Gabe.
Yeah. Brings back memories, man. Right.
And stealing tires from construction sites.
You know what's funny is when I just cleaned out that side of the gym in Hillsborough, they said, I wasn't even thinking, but they're like, you got to get the tires off the outside of the wall. I'm like, where the hell am I going to put these tires? Because we don't really use them anymore. So I brought a couple of them home, and the boys love them, just climbing on them and all that. You know, like, man, so we'll keep these as a keepsake.
Here's an idea. So my dad was a farmer growing up. So he was always very in tune with all things tractors. He made a sandbox out of a tire on its side.
No kidding. Just fill it with sand.
Fill it with sand.
There you go. So that's good. That's probably what I wound up doing then. They love this.
There you go. That was our sandbox growing up. Just a tire laid on its side, filled with sand.
Fill it with sand. I like it, man. Using everything you got.
Yep.
Let me just bring it to
Yep.
Give me one sec, Drew.